No, I can't find this one. Jeez.
What's up, pond people, and thank you all for joining us for this absolutely monumentous build. We as a company will be building our first ever recreational pond. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for day one, so Brad's manning the camera.
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
It's always a nice surprise to see what clips I end up with when Brad's filming and I'm not around. Now to clarify, Brad and Dave have worked on recreation ponds before, but they've been members of larger groups, usually through Aquascape, so these large group projects building them. This is our first time just Pondscapes of Charlotte building one. And it's hard to define a recreation pond because so many people use them for so many different reasons, but if you know what recreation means, you pretty much got there. It's just a large pond that's meant to be utilized and engaged with by the clients. And how they want to use it is totally up to them. At the end of the day, we're making a big, beautiful pond, and it's a blank slate after that. Alright, all the previous clips you've seen of like the prep work, we'll call that chapter 0, because now that I'm here to record, we're going to go ahead and start chapter 1 of this build and really start kicking things off. Now, one of the most important things you need for a pond right next to the water is, of course, the rocks. And with a feature this size, we're going to be requiring a lot of rocks. So here we are just unloading one of the many truckloads of boulders we're going to be getting over the next couple of days. While Brad's working on that in the front yard, let's go ahead and check how things are going in the backyard where we've got Braden in the excavator working on that pond. Now the main body of the pond is going to be rectangular in shape and it's going to be pretty deep. You can see here I could kick dirt in Braden's face at this level and he is sitting in the excavator, which is not something you can say very often. Little sign of respect here from Brad as the two behemoth machines pass each other, and then backup arrives in the form of Doug, who's going to go ahead and take over rock carrying duty and start getting those, and Darren, who's just going to sit in the shade and make some arts and crafts, I guess. Like I said earlier, we actually got a couple of truckloads of these rocks coming, and these rocks were actually personally picked out by Dave and Brad. They went to the mountains themselves, and you can see why. We got some absolutely gorgeous and unique looking rocks, so it really does help put that personal touch when you get to pick out the rocks yourself. You get a good mix, and you can kind of imagine where each one's going to go. While Dougie's been bringing back these rocks, Braden has been continuing his excellent work on carving the pond out, and you can see standing in it, it's pretty much eye level with me, and I'm 6 feet tall, so yeah, super deep. Alright, you caught me. I'm 5'10 3/4, but it's still a really deep hole. And then the guys went to work straightening out all the edges of the pond and also flattening out the bottom with rakes so there was a nice even surface when we put down underlayment and liner. Now moving on over, the guys are starting work on the reservoir. You can see this is also very deep. That's got to be 6 feet at least. You can see there's a lot going on today. We got more rocks coming in. We got guys working on the reservoir and we've got guys over here on the machine. For this, the guys are going to put down underlayment, liner, and then another piece of underlayment before getting our snorkel and centipede down there. Brad said, Evan, I want you to get this on camera for sure. It's what the experts do. And I said, okay. So we put down some sand. Sand helps level it out because we are going to be putting aqua blocks on it. So then we're getting it a good tamp down to get it nice and level. Brad also said he wanted me to get a video of him watering the rocks as we were putting them down. Look how excited he is. He saw I was videotaping. He got all happy. That's what pond building's all about right there, putting smiles on kids' faces. And if you weren't aware, the reservoir is basically the water storage area at the end of the feature where it all sits before it gets pumped back to the top. So the guys are working hard on that, and Darren is still just making arts and crafts in the corner. And of course, we can't leave those aqua blocks exposed, so we're going to go ahead and spread a layer of rock on top, and Braden is using a very unconventional spreading technique. Seems to be working for him though. And then we're finally going to put some of these rocks to good use. We're going to use the rare double dangle technique to go ahead and start bringing some rocks over to cover up the reservoir. The vibes are great. Brad's even having an 80s movie moment, I guess, and Chente's just giving support any way he can. We finally got some big action going on. We are putting the underlayment down in the pond, and Brad looks like he looks like he's going through it in the corner. I think he's okay though. Now this is one continuous piece of liner that we have going through the whole pond. The reservoir and the wetlands are going to have their own liner, but this one piece is just for the pond, and it is extremely heavy. Now the guys are working hard to get rid of any folds in the liner because once you start putting 2,000-pound rocks on it, it's going to be very difficult to backtrack and try to fix those folds later on. So this is what we got it looking like at the end of the day. Now that we have liner in both our pond and our reservoir, we're going to work on that little in-between space a little bit and get the overlap going and also put some rocks on top of it to kind of hold the liner in place because you don't want that falling later on. That's why we're being extra careful in this area, that as we're placing down these rocks, we're not shifting around the liner or losing any sort of slack. Moving back to the pond area, we're putting down another layer of underlayment on top of the liner because the boulders we're putting down are so heavy, it just is a lot safer to have an extra layer of protection. Here's a nice close-up view of us getting that second rock in there. The guys have to make sure that first layer of rock is super stable because it's what all the other rocks are going to be sitting on. Chente's not worried about it though. He's got more swagger than any one man should contain. As we're getting this first layer of rocks down, Braden is going back through and expertly incorporating these 3-watt underwater lights, as well as a 1-inch pipe that you can see sticking out under a lot of the lights. Here's one by Braden's hand. The 1-inch pipes are going to be part of a jet system we're setting up in this feature to keep a constant flow of water down low because this is such a deep pond. And what do we have here? That is a huge boulder going in. If I had to guess, I'd say, I don't know, 4,640 pounds.
4,650 pounds. Coming up.
Ooh, so close. 10 pounds off. I hope that rock kind of puts things in perspective for you guys, because it is quite literally over 2 tons and it's not even the biggest boulder we have on site. So this is some big stuff we're working with here. The guys are working super diligently to make sure this first layer of rocks is super level and super secure, because nothing else is going to sit on top of them if they're all wobbly. Here's one of my personal fave rocks going in. That's not a sentence I ever thought I'd say, but we called it the SpongeBob rock for obvious reasons. After old SpongeBob was in there, we just needed to add a couple more and we were finally done with the first layer of rocks. We asked Braden what he thinks we should do now. Of course, the answer was put on another layer of rocks. Let's go. I don't think I said it yet, but this project took us about 6 weeks to do, so even though I'm not making it obvious when it's a new day so far, we've probably been working on it for like a week and a half to 2 weeks at this point. Now over here, the guys are working on our stone stairway area. This way you can get in and out of the recreational pond a lot easier for whatever purpose you may be getting in or out of your pond for. Totally up to you. It also makes it easier for us to get in and out as we're building it. Got this funny little clip of the excavator looking like it's about to munch on my camera. Anyways, the guys are back at it, getting layer 2 down. They were making sure these rocks are nice and secure. And we got all the guys here in one shot. Well, almost all the guys. All the guys here that day in one shot. As more of those rocks are going in there, we got Chente working on some of the technical stuff. He's doing one of the power hubs right now and also putting together a bit more of that jet system. These are going to be the valves to control the jets. We were making super fantastic progress. The only thing that would slow us down now is if it like flooded or something. And oh god, okay. Well, so we got some rain last night. There's not going to be much we can do in the pond today. It's nice to know it holds water though, but we're going to go ahead and pump that water out so the sunlight can help dry it the rest of the way. And we're going to do a little bit of work on the outside. You can see Doug's working on that jet system a little bit, and Chente's also doing a little bit of edge work trying to pack in that dirt. That's when Dave shows up and says, "You guys are doing amazing. You're like the best employees ever." And we're like, "Oh, thanks, Dave." And he's like, "Hey, we got some rocks in the front. If you unload them, I got a little surprise for you." And we're like, "All right, well, we're going to unload them anyways." But we're kind of extra amped after that, so we go ahead and double time the unloading, and then him and Brad leave, and he just sends us a text that says meet at this location, and we ended up here. We had subs and snacks waiting for us lakeside. I don't know whose house this was. It wasn't Dave's. I hope he knows the owners, because we just kind of showed up. And look at that little bump right there from Braden, and they were going to do a little race, but that bump kind of set the tone of the entire thing. Things got very aggressive very quickly, and Dave somehow blew an astronomical lead. Dave looked like he had it in the bag, but the photo finish here is going to show us that Braden definitely got there first. He's already turning to avoid the rocks, and Dave is still coasting in. I don't know who had money on that or whose pocket he was trying to fill, but that was definitely a thrown race. Moving on back to the job site, we're going to go ahead and move those rocks we staged in the front yard on over to the backyard. And you can see Dave here holding a bit of our jet system. It is a 2-inch pipe portion of it that runs around the entire perimeter of the feature. So the guys are getting that settled so we can proceed with the mission and kind of get going on the wetlands a bit. And I was recording Brad here while he was in the excavator, and it's like his spidey senses tingled, and my heart dropped when he looked right at me. And we have another huge piece of liner here. This is going to be for the wetlands, and even though we don't have the wetlands dug yet, we have to get this liner in place in order to complete the waterfall that connects the wetlands to the pond. This part was incredibly hard and tiring because the liner weighs a couple hundred pounds, and as you can see, the guys keep moving it back and forth over these rocks to get it set right, and they have to be careful not to tear it up or anything, and it's got all these little flaps and stuff all over, so it's not the easiest thing to pick up and move. So of course, me seeing this super difficult task being done, I decided to set up across the pond and work on some arts and crafts, and made that. I hope you guys like it. It was actually really hard. It's actually kind of a tough angle to get that in there. But anyways, the guys are continuing work over here, and we actually had a bit of a liner, not really a mishap, it just kind of got buried a bit. We had a little sink spot, so the guys had to work on that, so I decided to cool them down a bit with my drone. Darren seemed to enjoy it after the initial shock finally subsided, but they got that settled and we were on to the next day. I made the most of golden hour and got this clip of Brad and Dave glowing. They look magnificent, and here's what the pond is looking like so far before we get a jump on it today. Our goal for the day is kind of two-pronged. One of them is to go ahead and get the waterfall area finished up because that's kind of holding up our ability to work on the wetlands. And our other goal for the day is to also go ahead and get the plumbing started. Our plumbing is going to be a mix of hard and flexible 3-inch pipe. You can see Doug and Chente in absolute synchronization here with the digging. phenomenal. Now this is going to be some pretty intricate plumbing. Normally on a standard feature, you just have a 2-inch flex pipe that runs from your pump down in your skimmer all the way to the top of either your wetlands or your biofalls. In this feature, we're going to be using 2 external pumps that are going to have outputs into our jet system and also up into the wetlands. While the guys are working on that, back on over to the waterfall area, and Braden and Dave are getting some more of the big rocks settled, and we've got it almost looking complete. Got a couple more to do, and they're also going to work on the stairway area a bit. It's pretty important to get these steps kind of the same distance and height, because if they're all uneven, people are going to be tripping coming up and down them all the time, which is not what you want. And oh my god, Dave, he's got the thick tall socks on, he's sloshing them up. Alright, back to the plumbing situation, and like I said, we're going to have some external pumps, so we got to have a nice little pump pad for them to hang out on. So Chente and Doug are working on a little concrete slab. Oh, got Chente in the face there. What the heck? What? You good, Chente? What happened? A little plug slap. Thankfully, I think Chente's going to be okay. You can see some of the progress we've made on the plumbing, and this is what one of our external pumps is going to look like. I also made these little pump house, dog house things for them, and this is what it looks like on it. I don't think they made the final cut though. I think we ended up not using them in the final product, but that's what they would look like if we did. And as we were nearing the end of the day, the guys were setting the last couple of rocks for the waterfall. Needed a little bit of extra help from Dave because this was getting tough on how to place them, but he gave us some good advice, and we finally got the last rock set. Braden and Doug got that finished up while the rest of us went ahead and glued together our plumbing.
Makes the Alaskan pipeline jealous.
So when we left yesterday, Dave was like, oh, you guys go ahead, I'm gonna get some water or something. That's what he made it sound like. And then we got back the next day and the entire wetlands was already dug. We just had to kind of flatten it out with dirt and rakes. We also dug out those additional divots for our snorkel and triple centipede combo. Each of those snorkels gets 3 centipedes, so we've got like an A, B, and C, if you will. We went with an underlayment, liner, underlayment combo, and also did a little bit of modifying to our end piece centipedes. Alright, on this day it was raining. It was just me, Doug, and Brad here. Our mission for the day was to fill in around the centipede so that we could have a nice flat surface where we started putting the aqua blocks down. And I gotta be real with y'all, it was miserable. It was cold and wet, and we were sogged up within an hour of being there. But every time I looked up at Brad, expecting him to say, alright, we can head out now, he just had a smile on his face, and it was contagious. I ended up having a good day, and me and Doug came back the next day and put down the first layer of rocks on top of the aqua blocks. The purpose of having like a nice layer of rock down first is so that when the truckloads of rock start coming and dumping right onto the wetlands, they're not going to fall on the aqua blocks. Instead, they'll kind of dampen the impact by falling on other rocks. So that's why we're doing this.
A lot of beer.
Me too.
Ultra.
I wish I could give you some context for what they were just talking about, but honestly I have no clue. But anyways, here's one of those truckloads of rock I was telling you about, so that's why we had that layer of rock down to kind of dampen that.
Bro, I almost fall asleep driving
I definitely meant to say riding there. I do not fall asleep driving, but that was in reference to the drive back. It's like an hour to get here every day, and on the drive back, when I'm riding, I almost fall asleep. Alright, that's enough commercial breaks. It's back to the build. Chente's getting a pump set up down in our snorkel so that as he's rinsing these rocks, he's going to be able to pump that nasty water out because these rocks are coming in very dirty. We had multiple different trucks bringing rocks of different sizes in here. I think like half a dozen, but we got the smallest layer of rocks on top and evened it out, so it's time to go ahead and rock the top. Alright, immediately we got our little berm dented there, but that's not a problem. We're going to go ahead and place the first rock anyways, and after that, it's just rock after rock, trying to fill this thing out, and the trick here is to make it not all squared off. So we're going to use some strategic rock oh, look at that. That's like a triple dangle right there. That's a forbidden jitsu. Anyways, we're going to use some strategic rock placement to give it its shape. So by not putting all the rocks directly against the perimeter and kind of bringing some of them in, we're going to kind of give this wetlands a shape that isn't so square. As for what's covering up all that underlayment on the bottom of the pond, it's going to be a whole truckload of pea gravel. So we're going to go ahead and spread that out so that it's covering all of the black spots. And it's going to be a couple inches thick. It depends on the spot, but I think it's anywhere from 2 to 4 inches thick in a lot of places. And as Brad is washing that down, we've got our first unexpected tenant here, a little toad. It's not ready yet, little guy. Early on in the pond process, we did put a clean out hole in here, so that way when Brad is rinsing all this pea gravel, the water is running to that one corner over there. You can see in the top right. Despite all the truckloads of rock we bought, somehow we still needed more, so we got a couple more pallets, loaded it onto the install truck, and we're going to bring these rocks on over to help finish this up. Very delicate with the excavator, and All right, you drop that one. Just, yeah, that's best. Just move on to a different rock if that one's not working. Love it. Oh yeah, and you remember that little pump area? Yeah, this is it now. It's looking amazing. Talk about a glow up. We've got it surrounded by these little tiles, and the best part is when we grade this land out, you won't even be able to see it behind that hill. We got the wind at our backs. Everything is going spectacularly, and that is, of course, until the fire department shows up. Just kidding, the fire department's actually on our team for this because apparently they'll fill up your pond if you need them to. I don't know all the specifics. I know we paid for the water, but somehow we got the fire department to fill it up, which is super cool. And let me tell you, this thing was so much faster than a hose. It was absolutely gushing. And here's a nice little slow-mo gush. I know there's a lot of slow-mo gush fans out there. Now, even though these fire trucks hold a lot of water, it still wasn't enough to fill it all up in one go. I think it had to come back like 5 times to fill it up. But it was still exciting to finally see water approaching the waterfall, and this is the first little go until, of course, it ran out of water, you know, because we don't have a circulating system right now. All the water that goes over the waterfall is just sitting in the pond, and until we get the pumps going and stuff, it's just going to be like that. But in the meantime, we got some absolutely beautiful shots of this thing getting filled up, and it was finally nice to see it looking like a water feature, you know, until you get water in it, it's just like a big canyon. And, oh, this guy is back again. How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man? The pond is not ready yet. Jeez. You can see that, like, every time we get a little burst here, that's like a full truckload of water. So it took a couple just to fill up the pond and finally get it going over into the reservoir. I gotta say, though, finally seeing water in this thing really sparked something in the guys. Braden, this is his first time seeing it. You can see he's inspecting it very diligently. And Darren is, yep, okay, he's gonna do that. We got some detail work to do. That's why Braden's dragging that log, and we also got to grade out this land. Look at the tracks we've left in it. But as you can see, that's nothing for a couple hours of raking. We got this ground looking very smooth and a nice gradient to it, and we're going to do the same thing all around the feature.
Right. Go down the dirt side, run down the dirty side.
Darren blessing us with a little raking tune, I guess. I don't know, I liked it. Now Moto's in the water checking things out. Now I know it may seem like he's just relaxing, and well, this is a bad shot to be saying that. He's not just relaxing, he's actually checking out the jets, and we also got Braden in there to checking out the jets, and of course Brad's gonna join in too. Those are some two-toned boys. That is unbelievable.
No, I can't find this one. Jeez.
And I gave my phone to Doug because he wanted to get some interior shots of the feature. So I appreciate you, Doug, for getting those. And yeah, the guys are checking out the jets to make sure each of the outputs are actually feeling a flow of water. And there I am waving in the background. Hey, guys. And it took a little opening and closing of valves to finally get the water move all the way through. But we got flow coming out of all of our jets. So that system is working perfectly. All we've got left now is to mulch the feature, which is what that blue line is marking. There's not much left to do on here, but on the final day, we did get a little guest appearance from Blake. He's been working on other stuff, but he finally got to come out and see it. I know there's a lot of Blake fans out there, so here he is. What a lovely lad. Anyways, the wildlife couldn't wait any longer, so I'm not going to make you guys wait any longer. Here it is, the final product. I hope you guys enjoy. So many hours, days, and weeks went into this feature. It's crazy to see that we're at the end of it. And when we say we're at the end of it, you're never truly at the end of a pond. There's always more to be done, more to grow. They're a natural ecosystem, so they're always changing season after season, year after year. This has been a build for the Pondscapes of Charlotte history books. It's the first ever, all within our own company, recreational pond build, and I couldn't be more proud of how it turned out. Getting into some of the specs of the pond, you already saw the huge wetlands. We've planted it well for filtration, and we've got all sorts of waterfall types coming off of this area. We've got beautiful crystal clear water here. Remember, we don't have a blue and white pool liner on this thing. It is a natural ecosystem. So of course we're gonna get some green and brown coloration reflecting off the rocks and the trees all around. We've also got our little stepping stone pathway over here that takes you across the feature to this beautiful view of the pond. And we got the water level just right to allow for a little bog area that you can plant in right here to the side. And we've already started doing that. You can see some of the beautiful flowers we're getting, as well as a little hangout spot that gives you another beautiful view of the waterfall area. And last but certainly not least, we've got some bonus waterfall action going on over here towards the reservoir. We've got it angled off of this rock so you can still see the waterfall from the main viewing area. And these clients are going to be doing a lot more with their backyard. This was just kind of the first and most important focal point, and they're going to be building a lot more around it to make it a much more enjoyable space. Oh, and I guess we did end up using those little dog houses on the pumps. Nice. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, we'll see you on the next one.